to you through her bio. So it's quite a lot of wisdom, and she shares with us, especially when she comes out of the Aquarian. It's a very gentle way of looking at the real Bible, you know. So, anyhow, it's a nice day. It really is. So, okay, Reverend Debra has lived in San Diego for over 40 years and has studied healing for over 35 years. Her initial training began at the First Spiritualist Church in San Diego. It includes classes in spiritual healing, universal laws, and mediumship. Reverend Debra was ordained at the First Spiritualist Church in October of 1992. That was 8 years before I met her. I met her in 2000. And served in many appointments as well as pastor. She has a long history with Harmony Grove, reading at psychic fairs and teaching at institute classes at Harmony Grove. Reverend Debra has taught many spiritual subjects in psychic development, including universal laws, angel kingdom, and tarot and chakra and aura, and is a Reiki master. She is currently the pastor of the First Christian Spiritualist Church in National City, lecturing monthly and offering healing and meditation classes. Her motto is, "We are co-creators with spirit to express in love and joy the message of our soul. Say yes to God." So please welcome Reverend Debra.
Good morning. Good nice to see you all here. And this morning, I was given St. Patrick's message to talk to you about St. Patrick, as we're into March, which I love to do. And he was a true model of self-sacrifice and love, and his understanding and in what he went through in his life is very, very interesting. He was born in Britain of a Romanized family, and at age 16 he was torn by Irish raiders from the villa of his father, Copernicus, a deacon and a minor local official, and carried into slavery in Ireland. He spent 6 bleak years there as a herdsman, during which he turned with fervor to his faith. Upon dreaming that the ship in which he was to escape was ready, he fled his master and found passage to Britain, and there he came to starvation and suffered a second brief captivity before he was united with his family. Thereafter, he may have paid a short visit to the continent. Best known, a passage in the Confessio that he wrote. It tells of a dream after his return to Britain, in which one Victoricus delivered him in a letter headed "The Voices of the Irish," and as he read it, he seemed to hear a certain company of Irish beseeching him to walk once more among them. And deeply moved, he says, "I could read no more." Nevertheless, because of shortcomings in his education, he reluctantly, for a long time, he was reluctant to respond to the call, and even on the eve of embarkation for Ireland, he was beset by doubts of his fitness for the task. He studied to become a priest there and then to go back to Ireland. Once in the field, however, the hesitations vanished, and utterly confident in the Lord, he journeyed far and wide, baptizing and confirming with untiring zeal. In diplomatic fashion, he brought gifts to the kinglets here and there, and a lawgiver there, but accepted none from any. On at least one occasion, he was cast into chains. On another, he addressed with lyrical pathos a last farewell to his converts who had been slain or kidnapped by the soldiers of Coroticus. Careful to deal fairly with the non-Christian Irish, he nevertheless lived in constant danger of martyrdom, and the evocation of such incidents of what he called his laborious episcopate was his reply to a charge to his great grief endorsed by his ecclesiastical superiors in Britain that he had originally sought office for the sake of office. In point of fact, he was a most humble-minded man, pouring forth a continuous paean of thanks to his Maker for having chosen him as the instrument whereby multitudes who had worshipped idols and unclean things had become the people of God. So this is the fervor, the love of Christ that he felt he needed to share with those. And the phenomenal success of Patrick's mission is not, however, the full measure of his personality. Since his writings have come to be better understood, it's increasingly recognized that despite their occasional incoherence, they mirror a truth and a simplicity of the rarest quality. Not since St. Augustine of Hippo had any religious diarist bared his inmost soul as St. Patrick did in his writings. As D.A. Vinci, the most austerely critical of patrician or Patrick scholars, puts it, the moral and spiritual greatness of the man shines through every stumbling sentence of his rustic Latin. It is not possible to say with any assurance when Patrick was born. There are, however, a number of pointers to the missionary career having lain within the second half of the 5th century. In the Coroticus letter, he mentioned of the Franks as still heathen and indicates that a letter must have been written between 451, the date generally accepted as that of the Franks' eruption into Gaul, as far as the Somme River, and in 1496 when they were baptized in Mass. Patrick, who speaks of himself as having evangelized heathen Ireland, is not to be confused with Palladius, sent by Pope Celestine I in 1431 as the first bishop of the Irish believers in Christ, and toward the end of his life retired to Saul, where he may have written the Confessio. It is said that an angel conveyed to him that he was to die at Saul, the site of his first church, despite his wishes to die within the ecclesiastical metropolis of Ireland. His last rites were administered by Saint Tussac. And before the end of the 7th century, Patrick had become a legendary figure, and the legends have continued to grow. One of these would have been that he drove the snakes of Ireland into the sea to their destruction, and Patrick himself wrote that he raised people from the dead. And a 12th century biography places his number at 33 men, some of whom who have said to be deceased for many years. He also reportedly prayed for the provision of food for hungry sailors traveling through a desolate area, and a herd of swine miraculously appeared. Another legend, probably the most popular, is that of the Shamrock, which has him explain the concept of the Holy Trinity, 3 persons in one God, to an unbeliever by showing him the 3-leaved plant on the stalk. Traditionally, Irishmen have worn shamrocks, the national flower of Ireland, in their lapels on St. Paddy's Day, March 17th. Thank you. And how inspiring to think of the calling of St. Patrick. that he received, and even greater was his answer to God, choosing to return to Ireland, the country of his captivity, for 6 years, to bring them the Word of God, which he felt was so important. And it was his belief to bring Jesus' message to the people of God's bidding. And to St. Patrick's body, mind, and heart were in oneness to obey, to listen to the people, and to work with those that weren't open to the teaching, is being truly humble. Thou art the potter, we are the clay. I have a book at home, this thick little book, and it's all about the saints that are recognized by the church. And I'm sure there are probably many more that haven't been found or recognized. And I know each of us knows of a person that could go to sainthood for being so selfless and helpful and loving. We are called to be the best. Spirit chooses those with the clearest and high energies to work with. As a musician chooses the best instrument for their playing to bring the best to the people that he's performing for. So we're all called to be the clearest and the best. And St. Francis, and it makes me make me an instrument of your peace. Let me be so clear and loving and giving as St. Francis was, to be an instrument of God's peace. There was a story in Facebook I read of a waitress. She was taking care of her clients, and so at the end she did her work, but when she got the receipt back, she didn't get a tip. They had a note on it saying, "Be better." And at first she was a little upset, but as later she ruminated on it. She was pretty wise, because she then took it to be a challenge. And she's thinking, I will try to be better. And so she started paying attention to her regular patrons' names and what they liked, and going back through the tables and just being more alert, more aware of how she was going about her job. And as she was trying to do better, her bosses noticed it. They gave her better shifts. Everybody, all her people noticed it. She got better tips. The boss gave her better hours, and she was happier, a happier person. And then one day she got her receipt back from, I was looking at her receipts, and one of them said, good job, you're doing better. And she got a 50% tip from that person. Wow. So it's all in how we're choosing to look at things. Are we taking it as the criticism that we can learn and grow from, or are we choosing to go a negative path? St. Francis, all the saints, they show us to do better. They all suffered, as Buddha teaches, that enlightenment is through suffering. And I never quite understood that till I got older and realized, things that happen to us in our daily life, we may not understand, and we may never understand, but that's not the point. The point is how is it affecting me, and what do I choose to do with this? And And what we do as spiritualists is pray. Pray and give of ourselves and do what we can see we can do to make things better in this world. And today is, I like to look at numbers. Today is in March 2nd, 2025, the numerology is 5, as is the year. And beginnings and changes, it's of changes, and looking towards how we can change ourselves so we can thereby change the world about us and change the energy patterns in the world. That's why we're here. Okay. And I think St. Patrick is very close, and I invited him in. So if you notice, he's asking that you notice him, his energy in your lives. Whenever you see a bit of green, remember him and his message for you. And also the leprechauns came in. And so there's all these beautiful creations of God. And I'll always remember the story of Ted Andrews. Starts in his book and that he talks of enchantment of the fairy realm that I love to use in my fairy classes. And he talks about when he was a boy, he met a leprechaun on his desk. And and he just thought everybody has a leprechaun. But he had been a friend to him all through the years, this little leprechaun. So they do come up here and there in our lives, the fairyland and all this that's called pagan and unclean and all of that. But that's because there was an understanding at the time of bringing the Christ energy into people's hearts, and unfortunately they discounted other creations. But I believe in a spiritual tradition, our traditions here. We kind of marry them, okay? We're all one. And there's that beautiful love and wisdom in everything around us. It's being aware. God bless you all. Have a wonderful March.